This is GamesAtWork.biz, your weekly podcast about gaming, technology, and play. Your hosts are Michael Martin, Andy Piper, and Michael Rowe. The thoughts and opinions on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests alone and are not the opinions of any organization which they have been, are, or may be affiliated with. This is episode 547, Bricktastic. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Michael Rowe here. It's Friday afternoon. I've got screens in front of me, a giant microphone, and a friend named Michael on the other side of the screen to talk tech with you and for you about your tags and interesting topics at GamesAtWork.biz. Michael Martin, how the heck are you?
Excited to be here on a lovely day, and all kinds of excited to share lots of stories here about things that have studs to them.
Ooh,
how about that?
Make us studs? No, not at all.
No, not at all. But we're gonna start with an article from Ars Technica, don't you think?
Well, no, because first I'm going to shout out our co-host Andy Piper, who's off this week, and I think will be off next week. And I hope he's having an awesome time spelunking in the fjords, because you don't know where he's at. I don't know where he's at. No one knows where he's at, but he's having a good time. Now, what are we going to talk about next?
All right, so we're going to go under the sea just a little bit with a story about Meta and about Moltbook. So there was an article earlier this week. There were several articles about this particular topic where Meta acquired Moltbook. And we've talked about that a little bit before, so we won't go into great detail. But the fun thing about this in my mind is when you consider the voracious appetite of LLMs, including Llama from our friends over at Meta, it kind of makes sense that you might want to have something like Moltbook where agents are talking to one another as a potential source of additional information that you might incorporate into your large language model. There's that, and you might want to have them sell advertisements to agents that may decide to buy them, or tell their humans that they should buy them too. So good fun stuff.
I actually had an interesting thought about this the other day. And so, as you say, Moltbook has these agents talking to each other. And the idea is there value in that conversation that I can leverage if I'm building an agentic workflow to understand how other agents might be doing things, and can I reverse engineer some knowledge? So maybe that's an acquisition target for that reason. And then I started thinking about what happens when you take a deep research document, you run an AI on it, and you say, summarize this to help me make a decision. So it does that. And you probably used the AI to generate that deep research. So then you have a summary of an AI summary deep research. And then you say, take this summarized information and let me create something from it. Like maybe I'm creating a presentation or a keynote or whatever. And then you have a summary of the summary of AI generated research. And then you go off and you take that information and you use it to feed into an agentic tool to go off and run an exercise of some sort, which is going to summarize that data and create content. And you get down to, do you remember the days when photocopiers were really bad? And you would take a news story or an article from a physical magazine, you make a photocopy.
It would degrade with every copy.
Make another photocopy of that photocopy, and eventually your teacher would do a handout of a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy, and it was this mess.
Or a mimeograph. That was even better.
Well, those were loads of fun. I actually got to work on that as one of my little student things as a kid in high school, and gotta love the mimeograph smell, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, at what level do all these acquisitions of second and third level AI tools add value versus subtract value? because they're over summarizing existing content.
Well, I don't know. Does Maltbook summarizing content, or was it really more agents essentially interacting with other agents, right?
Interacting with other agents, and Maltbook was capturing that conversation.
Sure.
Well, that conversation is driven based off of a summarization of something that turns into a set of actions. So it's actions based off of summarization that turn into a string of actions that you're then going to take and feed into an LLM of some sort to learn from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense because that's a meta set of conversations. So why
you
not?
Got it. It's
right?
Meta.
it's on brand, right? It's really on brand. I mean, this reminds me also a little bit of the topic we had some years ago where you had a Google Home device talking to another
Siri.
Google Home device, or to
they had these arguments.
and they would talk back and forth and not understand one another, and it was so entertaining. Maybe we'll find that for the show notes, and if you want to see that YouTube video, it was good fun.
And especially if we remember the stories, I guess it was 2 weeks ago when they talking about, maybe 3 weeks ago, that a lot of the conversation where agents looked like they were going off to try to do things they weren't supposed to do were actually fed by prompts by people.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so
agents, they're people just like us.
So moving on to another interesting discussion. We're great followers of Mike Elgin, and one of the things that he'd shared was a Futurism post about a study here. The title is "Study Finds That Execs Are Already Outsourcing Their Thinking to AI," and this is a common discussion point here, that people are losing their own brain power and cognitive capability because they're outsourcing things to AI. And we've seen some of that over time where, think about the phone numbers you have memorized. You used to have most of the important people's in your life, their phone numbers memorized, because doing that on a rotary dial meant you had to have that handy to do it on a rotary dial. And now you can just say, hey, wake word, please call so-and-so, and it'll call them. So not entirely surprising here that there's yet another article on this, and they call it cognitive debt, by outsourcing work to AIs.
So, yeah, I guess kind of the differentiating thought here might be, if you think executives in corporations, what their role is supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be strategic thought and setting directions for others to go do something, right? Yeah. If you have an executive who's doing all the stuff, they're not performing executive activities, right? They're supposed to have people to do that for them. And in this case, they're saying, I've got agents to do that for them. The question is, when it comes to decision making, that is, I think, where the problem could lie. If you're outsourcing the decision, that's a problem. If you're saying, go get me this information and I will then make a decision off of it, I think that's an appropriate executive function. And looking at the article, to me, it didn't go down deep enough to explain that part of it.
Of course not. Right.
So, and I don't think executives asking something else or someone else to do research for them is a bad thing if they're performing their executive function.
Exactly. And that's how do you guide your AI counterpart to go and collect information for you, validate it, show where it came from, evaluate the trustworthiness or truthiness of those, elements. Michael and I, before we hit the pre-show, we're talking about what I'll be doing this weekend, and I'll be doing a keynote address for a statewide hackathon called Smath Hacks 2026. And I've been involved with this community now for a number of years. And one of the things that I'll be talking about are the skills that are needed now in 2026 to really be able to interoperate and to leverage AI, and where those skills are to be best found, nurtured, and allow people to move into the future. So what you just explained, Michael, makes a ton of sense about the researching, right? So can you find the insights using an AI agent that can quickly go and understand and ingest a wide variety of sources? Then the human then can evaluate the appropriateness, the truthiness, the nature of those sources, and then direct the actions to be able to go and do something with that. It might be to create some wireframes. It might be able to create code directly. It might be to do refinement of the research, or to do something compelling to convince others that this is a good idea and it's worth investing in. So it's a variety of those things, and that I think is going to be the really intriguing thing to delve a little bit deeper here, for sure.
Yeah, one thought, kind of riffing off of that, that I had, and I was talking to a colleague about this, is when you think about where the bottleneck has been historically on change.
Right.
And I'll talk about corporate change. It could be, how long does it take you to implement your new ERP system, right? It may be, how long does it take you to go from idea to MVP to ship to the market, et cetera. And what's going to happen, if it's not already happening, is that the bottleneck is going to shift, because it took you 6 months to write the application MVP. Now that happens in a weekend. That doesn't mean you're going to ship on Monday.
Correct.
Because there are other decisions and other things that now, instead of testing 50 features in your new product, you've got 1,000 features, because it's become so trivial to create features that you just shove them all in 1.0, right? And so you get into this shift of where the bottleneck is. And when, again, back to the executive function, the ability to understand the complexity, et cetera, when you get into the thought process of, I just got 1,000 decisions to make to say this is shippable or not, how do you have the capacity and the cognitive ability to make those 1,000 decisions with the same level or an appropriate level of care and understanding and knowledge that you used to be able to make those 1,000 decisions over the course of 5 releases in 4 years, right? And now you have a month. So you're shifting where the bottlenecks are going to be, and how do we make people skilled enough to be able to address those new bottlenecks that we're going to make?
Yeah, I love that, Michael. That is really really insightful, and I think that leads really nicely into the next story here too, which is the Max Stories article about Apple's 50th anniversary. And one of the things that Steve Jobs was really famous for talking about was, and there's a link to it right here, so you can see the monologue and listen to it if you like too, the intersection of technology and the liberal arts. And this features prominently in the remarks that I'll be giving this weekend as well, because my belief is that certainly you have to have the necessary science level understanding in order to do what you need to do in a technology world, for sure. But you also need to have the level of creativity, empathy, humanity to know what's important to people. Unless you're on Moltbook, which in case that you're talking agent to agent, that's a different story. But the 1,000 things, which are the most important? And Steve Jobs also talked about saying 1,000 no's to every yes. So just because you can doesn't mean you should. And these are the nuances that are going to be really, really important now in 2026. And I think for a long time still in the future, because the bottlenecks are going to shift. They're going to shift left. And as they shift left earlier in the cycle, it's those ideas that are going to be not commodities. That's going to be the uniquenesses that has to be determined.
Yeah, I don't know if they're all going to shift left. I think they're going to shift left and right. And so right now, the bottleneck, historically, I'll just talk about software development, was in the middle. The writing and testing of the code. You could come up with ideas pretty quick, and you could do the final packaging and a little bit of marketing material pretty quick on the other end. But now the middle is going to shrink so dramatically that those both ends are going to be more important, because if anybody can write a full feature to-do app, there's no way to distinguish yourself from the market. So you're going to have to spend a heck of a lot more time on the marketing side.
Tip
right?
calculator.
Tip calculator. You got it. What was the fart machine, right, on the early iPhone apps? Or on the front end on market research and feature definition and user profiles and, again, all this stuff. And I think, Jobs' comment was right, and you're hitting it too, is we need to understand humanity and the humanities from an education perspective to make sure that we're building the right thing or doing the right thing for the right reasons and the right people, right? So that there's actually the right market out there. Otherwise, it's just, it could be really good slop, but it's still slop.
It's product market fit, talk about it in those terms. And that is going to be super crucial and remain so. But the iterations and testing for that is going to be something that can be done a whole heck of a lot faster, right? Because you can really evaluate, okay, well, what if it was this? What if it was this? What if it was this?
And so that's a really good question. So it gets faster and faster and faster, right? And we say that in the future, because of AI and robotics, we're going to have all this free time. Are we really? Or
No.
are we going to see what we're having exactly what we're going to see? And we see this today with developers who are using AI coding tools. And instead of just putting out a release, 2 or 3 times a year, they're now cranking them out constantly because they can. And you end up in a situation where you end up with burnout a lot faster. So that takes us right back to the humanities. You've got to look at this holistically. It's not just about cranking out new features. It's not just about releasing new products to market. It's not just because you can go faster and have more and more iterations. That may not be the right thing to do.
Yep.
Plus, just another great example. We know that once a year, Apple's going to come out with a new iPhone.
What?
Right?
Really?
Usually in September.
Maybe?
Usually in September. Right? They might come out with a mid-cycle release in, let's say, March and call it an E device. But for all practical purposes, once a year, they're going to come out with a new iPhone. Imagine what would happen to their revenue cycle if they didn't have that artificial once-a-year release cycle, but they just started cranking out new phones as fast as they could because they can. I'll just leave it at that. So what else we got?
So I guess we're not done with Apple yet. What we have is a really cool hack, if you will, of a case that looks an awful lot like the little Lego computer cases. So it's a little 2x2 sloped computer simulation where you can put it around a Mac Mini. And the way it's been set up allows you then to have your Mac Mini on your table, and you will have like this really cool little device. And the way that's been set up, you can charge your phone on it because that's been set in place too, and that's kind of cool.
I think this guy actually was the one who developed the little Lego with an actual computer in it, the little 2x Lego piece with an actual computer in it.
Oh, really?
A couple years ago. And so this is using his same designs for that, but scaling it up to put a Mac Mini in it.
Oh, that's funny. We'll have to find that if that's in fact the case.
I'm pretty sure I remember seeing that somewhere. I know he's basing it off the classic 2x2 sloped computer brick Lego piece, but I think this might have been the same guy, and if not, it still has the same look, who did that with an actual Lego piece.
Yeah, and the touch screen is just such a nice touch
Yeah,
there too,
I
right?
saw that. I was trying to figure out what he's actually showing on it, though.
What he's showing is an image that is just like the
The one that was on the
sticker,
chip.
not really a
Yeah.
sticker. It was what was on the actual little computer 2x2 sloped brick.
Yeah.
But it is a touch screen that you could use for other controls, and there are other companies out there that have created
Kinda like the
things that
Stream
are
Deck.
like that. Yeah,
You can make
yeah.
it into your own little Stream Deck.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that kind of was what I'd forgotten the name of it, but that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
This lets us move a little bit more into the Lego space, or we're kind
Yes.
of picking up on that studs piece. And Michael, you saw an article come across your feeds from Duke about someone who actually went to go work for Lego, didn't you?
Yeah, so this is interesting. In the alumni newsletter crap that they send you all the time, asking for money, right? I think all universities do that. I saw this article; it really caught me. It's actually from December, and it's talking about a student from Duke who actually went to Duke originally for the ballet program, and ended up switching into the sciences with chemistry classes, and how that led her into the path of STEM and Teach for America, and ultimately connecting up with the Lego education program. And I just thought it was really kind of cool how, our original paths don't always go down where you think they're going to be, and how Lego to me was always a way of connecting things. Usually my love of Star Trek with my love of building Legos, because I used to make phasers and stuff out of it. But it was a really interesting kind of journey for this student, and it fits really well into a lot of our discussions we've been having around Lego lately. I think it's cool.
Yeah, and I like that too, and the fact that it's all about Lego education, which is where she wound up going. I think that's also really cool, because Lego has been a key part of education through the robotics programs and for a variety of other things as well. Last week's show, we talked a little bit about the new Lego brick, and I've been playing around with it just a little bit since then. But
Well, they are
haven't
only
built-
about this big, right? They are little.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the articles that turned up was the fact that you can't replace the battery in it, which is sort of a a standard thing that we've seen around phones for I don't know, like 20 years, that you can't replace batteries and things. And it's funny because it bit me, because I had the Lego brick here at my desk, and I was going to show it to some people, and I started shaking it and twisting it and moving it around, and sure enough, the battery had expired. And Lego themselves suggests that you keep it on the charger if you're not actively playing with it.
So is it fully dead, or were you able to recharge it?
Oh, it's been recharged, so
Okay,
we're good. But the battery is really small,
Of
and
course. It's a brick.
yeah, and trying to pry it open to replace it or something that feels on a lot of levels just kind of sort of silly.
It would also be kind of dangerous because kids can eat bricks as it is, and you start peeling a brick apart into smaller pieces, that could be a safety hazard.
Yeah, good point, Michael, too. So you don't want to have necessarily, excuse me, like a button battery or something like that in there that could cause other issues.
Yep.
And that brings to mind also, who are these things for, right? Who are these sets for? And this is not the adult fans of Lego kind of structure. There are plenty of sets that are really geared toward that. You're not going to spend $1,000 on a Death Star set for, Junior, who's only 6 years old. And there's a
Some
lovely,
people might, but
well, maybe some people. I don't know who those people are, but there's a lovely video that we'll include in the show notes, so you can take a look at it, about one of the Lego fans that had his kids kind of be exposed to this, and the sheer delight from the kids that is there is just fantastic. I mean, it does add an awful lot to the play experience, although there are some out there that are saying, well, it's stunting the imagination because now you're providing this extra stimulus to it, kind of a little bit like the phone number conversation we had earlier. But at the same time, the fact that it unlocks some interesting new experiences, and that when you have more than one brick, how how one gun turret, as it's shooting pew pew, and another one that's nearby can sense that and go, oh, I'm going to explode now over here. Those are kind of cool things. And I would say that as we go forward in time, that will provide for new play experiences and for people to do more stuff with them. Now, along those lines, there's a couple of other articles that we've listed out here too about finding other uses for the smart brick already. So there's an example video of someone who's taken the little RFID piece and putting it into a lightsaber, and then putting the brick on said lightsaber and moving it around and getting the experiences and the sounds related to that is super deluxe cool. There'll probably be other things you can do from a sensor perspective on it. And we had one last point on from Mastodon about how cloning the bricks is also possible, because they do comply with the appropriate ISO standards that allow for this sort of thing to happen. So the hacker community is on it, as we suggested they were, right?
Of course they were. I mean, that's the fun thing. I mean, let's face it. Growing up, to me, before having my first computer, I mean, Legos were your hacking tool, right? You built things that, I mean, you couldn't actually hack things with them, but you could pretend, right? And you learned, how to break things down and how to build things up based off of components and figure out how to put things together to represent something else. And I mean, go back to the Lego computer design with the Mac Mini in it, right? You're repurposing something in a way, or making something to make it look like something else and possibly even behave differently than originally designed. And that's the fun of hacking.
Yeah. And tinkering and playing, which kind of brings us right back to the beginning of all this. You learn by playing with things, experiencing them.
Even at work.
Even at work. So with that, friends, Andy, we miss you. We're looking forward to being back full strength with you again soon. And if you've got some Lego brick stories, or you've got some other things that you'd like to hear us chat about, you can find us at gamesatwork.biz, and you can find us on the socials as well. Drop us a line. We'd love to hear about what you're playing with at work or otherwise. Thanks a lot, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to GamesAtWork.biz, the podcast about gaming technology and play. We are part of the Blueberry Podcasting Network, and would like to thank the band Random Encounters for their song, Big Blue. You can follow us at our website at GamesAtWork.biz.